Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tracy Blake Salami. I make motherhood, lifestyle, and beauty videos here on YouTube every week. And this week I'm sharing with you a podcast that was and still is highly listened to and downloaded on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. As you all may know, I have a podcast called Married to Nigeria. And on this particular episode, we bring on a guest whose name is Atlantis, and she has her own podcast called Gumbo Girls. And it just so happens that myself, my co-host Tracy Ajayi, and Atlantis are all American women who married Nigerian men. And I believe we all married Yoruba, if my memory serves me correctly. So guys, listen to this podcast. Let me know what you think. There is a part 2 to it that you could go to Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts and listen to on another day. But today I'm just chillaxing with my family, and I thought that you would be really interested in hearing this particular podcast, especially those American women who I know follow this channel and are engaged or married to Nigerian men, and you're about to have children. This is a very good podcast to listen to, and I just can't wait to get your comments. So make sure you come and listen and drop your comments below. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel because there's so much good content coming out very soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Welcome to Married to Nigeria, a weekly relationship podcast for American women dating or married to Nigerian men. I'm Tracy Blake Salami.
And I'm Chantrice Ajayi. So this week we are welcoming Atlantis from Gumbo Girls on with us. She is also an African American married to a Nigerian man. Atlantis, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I am Atlantis. I am one half of the Gumbo Girls podcast. It's a fun, upbeat podcast that talks about everyday topics, and it applies to women from different walks of life. You know, the wife, the mom, the career woman, things like that. And I host it with my sister, Keisha. And that's me. I'm a mom. I'm a wife, obviously. I have a 2-year-old son. And I'm currently a stay-at-home mom, but I am a forensic scientist by education and trade. That's about it.
All right. Well, welcome to Married to Nigeria.
Thank you.
I've been plotting for you to come on this platform for a long time, right, Tracy?
Yes. Like, you were at high demand.
And so hard to get.
Yes.
I feel special.
You're what they call a hot commodity. Like, you know, that box
I'm a
cheese we
hot
used to eat
girl.
back in the
Okay.
day.
Okay. Yes. Sorry, life gets busy, but I'm glad to be here.
We're glad to have you. So, fill us in, Atlanta.
Yeah.
So, what is it like being married to a Nigerian man?
Yeah. It's what is it like being married to a Nigerian man? I honestly, it's like being married to, I guess, any man. I don't know. I mean, of course, there are cultural differences and there are things that I had to adjust to, but overall, I don't focus on the fact that I'm married to a Nigerian man. It's more I'm married to Toy. And we do in our house what works for us. And it may not fit, I guess, the cookie cutter version of what it's like to be with a Nigerian man. So, I mean, it's fine. It's marriage. It has its ups and downs, but overall, it's good.
How did you meet your husband?
We actually met in college. So I met him in 2008, and I met him it was a party. I was with we had mutual friends. I was at a party with the African student organization, and he kept staring at me, and he was interested in talking to me, but I had just gotten back with a guy that I was dating at the time. So I was like, yeah, no, sorry. And then again in 2010, our mutual friends actually after that, he wrote me a love letter that I never got. He gave it to one of my friends, but she told me about it. She didn't give it to me, but she told me about it. And then in 2010...
Wait a minute. She didn't give you the letter that was meant for
she
you?
would not give me the letter. She was like, oh, you are with someone right now. And I'm like, why won't you give me the letter? Just give me the letter. Yeah.
That's not your business, though.
So she read it to me. She never gave it to me. I never got it.
Wow.
So okay. I didn't hear from him we hadn't really like exchanged numbers or anything. In 2010, our mutual friends kind of like suggested, hey, you should date him. And I was still with the same guy. And I was like, I'm dating someone, but if it doesn't work out, I'll keep it in mind. Anyway, we became Facebook friends and started talking. And turns out we actually literally live on the same street, and I would walk my dog in front of his house and I never saw him. And that's kind of where it went. We started talking and then we started dating and then we got married. Now we have a 2-year-old.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when I originally thought of having you come on, I don't know what Tracy had in mind, but I was thinking about how we're all young, educated, upwardly mobile,
right.
African American women just trying to live our best lives. We just so happen to be married to Nigerian men. And at some point, you had a child, I had a child, and there were some things that we were not quite prepared for, especially dealing with family members and others who are involved in the family with raising our children. So how, Atlantis, do you raise a Nigerian American child? And is your child Nigerian American or is he just Nigerian?
He's absolutely...
just American.
Absolutely not just Nigerian. He's absolutely not just American. He's Nigerian American. And I'm totally okay with that. I feel like, honestly, if you're dating someone with a different culture, different nationality, it would be crazy to not acknowledge that side. So he's definitely a Nigerian American kid. How do I raise him? When I'm raising him, I don't really think about that. Honestly, I think about raising a little black boy in America, because at the end of the day, when he goes out into the world, no one is seeing him as, oh, he's half Nigerian or, oh, blah, blah, blah. Like, especially when it comes to people that are not black, they don't see, oh, it's a Nigerian person, it's a Ghanaian person. They see it's he will be a black man, a black boy. So I don't tend to focus on that because honestly, I feel like the Nigerian part of him, that's not my responsibility to teach him that culture. That's his father's responsibility because that's his father's culture. I wouldn't expect Toy to teach him things about Louisiana or like Southern culture because that's my culture. Now, I do feel that it's necessary for both to be present, but I feel that the responsible party needs to make sure that's in place, not necessarily me, because I'm not Nigerian. That's how I
Okay,
see
so that's a read. I bring up that question because I have another platform, Nigerian Wifestyle, on YouTube, and I got so much in the comment section for calling Iwa, my daughter, Nigerian American, and their perspective, a lot of people in the comments, not all Nigerians, is that you don't have a half anything. When you marry into a Nigerian family, you are essentially Nigerian now.
I've been told that,
and your children
No.
are Nigerian. There is no half Nigerian child.
I've been told that. I've had family members say to me, "Oh, you're Nigerian now," and at this point, I just kind of laugh. I don't really go back and forth and debate with people anymore. But at the end of the day, like I tell my husband, I'm not Nigerian. I will never be Nigerian. Now, based on my DNA, I did a DNA test. Yes, there is some Nigerian ancestry there, which I think a lot of African Americans may have. But I'm not Nigerian. I married a Nigerian man. I have a child who probably, based on my DNA and his father's DNA, may be more Nigerian than whatever. I still feel like I'm African American. That's who I am. And my son he's African American, but he also is Nigerian. And that's what it is. And whoever has a problem with it, that's not my problem, basically.
So when those statements are made, do you feel like they're trying to strip you of your identity? Have you ever felt like you lost your identity being
I have
married
never
to
felt
a
like I've
Nigerian
lost
man?
my identity, because I feel like women can lose their identities in many different ways. And we actually had a podcast topic about that on my podcast. But in terms of, oh, I'm suddenly Nigerian and this is what I do because this is what a Nigerian woman does, I have always been very firm on my position with that. I have no problem learning about Nigerian culture. I think I would be foolish to be married to a Nigerian man and not learn about his culture, not adopt certain things from his culture, but that's not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it goes both ways. So no, I've never felt like, oh my gosh, I'm no longer African American Atlantis from the South. I'm now like Nigerian Atlantis. I've always kind of pushed back on that. And it didn't even come from him. It kind of came from outside family members, like extended family, because it didn't even come from my immediate in-laws. I feel like it's not necessary to diminish your culture for another person's culture to be seen. I think that's insane. So, no, I haven't felt lost in Nigerian culture because I've purposely not become a Nigerian wife per se, because that's not who I am. And I don't feel like to be a good wife to my husband, I have to suddenly be a Nigerian woman, because if he wanted to be with a Nigerian woman, he would have married one. The end.
Mm-hmm. Bloop.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you are raising your son, are there certain cultural traditions that you've kind of incorporated that are not necessarily American or African American, or do you just not think about what those are and not
like
that
what?
Way?
Like would it?
Like the Nigerian bath. Did your son have the proper Nigerian bath?
No. Are you talking about the palm oil and all that? No.
Yeah, the palm oil,
No.
shaking the leg, the arm, turning them upside down, tossing them in the air, all of that.
No, he did not do that, because my sister-in-law had told me about it. When I said it to my husband was like, oh, people don't do that anymore. And then my sister-in-law told me about it, and I was like, what? And then she showed me videos, and I was like, this is absolutely not taking place in my house with my child. Like, we are not going to do this. I was like, what is that? It looks like child abuse. sorry. No. She was like, oh, this is what we do in Nigeria. And I'm not knocking anyone's, beliefs, but no, not the one that's coming out of my body. We're not going to do that. We did not do the bath. My mother-in-law didn't even try to push those things. When I actually asked her, I was like, so would you want to do like the leg twisting, bending and all that? And she kind of laughed at me. And she said, no, that's not something she was interested in doing, but we didn't do the bath, but we did do a naming ceremony. That's kind of it. I was against the palm oil bath and all that stuff because I didn't submerge him in water or bathe him really in anything for a while. I just kind of would wipe him down, and that's how I was raised. I feel like as a mother, you have to do what you're comfortable with, because it's not just, oh, hey, I'm a Nigerian wife, I'm going to do this, and it's something that only affects you. I feel like at that point, I have to look out what's in the best interest for my child. And I'm not saying it necessarily harms the child, but it's not something that I'm comfortable with. And I feel like as a new mom, you have to be comfortable with things that are happening to your child. Because at the end of the day, when everyone goes home, that's still your kid. It's not their kid. And these things that they're doing, is it really necessary? Is it just to make them feel better? Is it about ego? Like, what is it about? Why?
Well, I was told it was about cleanliness, and that someone gave me an example that when they get on the subway, they see different African American children and the kids are smelling.
Really?
And I'm like, so are you telling me that unless you have this particular bath, all the people in America are just smelling?
I mean,
they're going around and growing up smelling awful. Is that what we're saying about this palm oil?
Well, I have been told the palm oil was to, I guess, remove the dead skin. Now, as an adult, I've read that, palm oil is actually good for skin and like dryness and I think eczema and stuff like that. It's just, I felt like at a few days old, my baby's skin is still so delicate that I don't want to introduce these foreign things. And I mean, it works for Nigerian parents because that's what they're used to. I wasn't used to that. I didn't bathe him with anything. It was just water. I just used water and a towel. Now, my mother-in-law was constantly asking me like, oh, have you given a bath yet? When are you giving him a bath? Have you given a bath? And I'm like, no, you don't really like bathe. Well, I mean, I know we don't, at least in Louisiana. Tracy, I'm sure you can attest to this. A new baby, you don't give a baby a bath every day. Like, they're not.
No, because it causes like cradle cap
they're not
and a lot
sweating.
of like
they're not doing anything. They're just lying there. So that's not something we did. I think it kind of bothered my mother-in-law because she was always asking me, so you're not going to bathe him? You're not going to bathe him? And I'm like, no, baby doesn't need a bath every day. And even now, I know some people are like, oh, that's a white people thing. They say you shouldn't bathe a child every single day. Well, Sam has eczema really bad, and he's not in daycare. So I'm not like, okay, every single day you have to take a bath. I mean, he doesn't smell or anything, but I'm not like, wash you as soon as you wake up. Before you go to bed, you're taking a bath. No, I don't do that.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. Tracy probably remembers my story where I felt like I was bombarded after having my daughter with the Nigerian bath. First of all, I just thought they just wanted to be the first to give a bath, which I was like, okay, I'm okay with that. She was 3 days old. I didn't feel like she needed a bath. But if it's about like honor or something like that, I'm not about to pick a fight over who gives the bath first. That's what I thought it was about. I had no clue, none whatsoever, that there was anything about a certain type of bath where you would be bathing the baby in a vigorous way with a certain type of sponge, that you would be using palm oil, pulling legs, pulling arms, tossing the babies up in the air. I had no clue. And when I tell you, when it went down, I was in tears, and I told my husband, never again in life. And I remember going home, and on the way home, I was texting Tracy, like, Tracy, this is what's going down. Is this normal? And then, like, not even a week later, there were some other aunties that came over, and this other auntie wanted to give the baby another bath. And everybody, I swear, it felt like I was being ganged up on because none of my family had arrived yet. And all of his family was around. And they were telling me that if the baby doesn't have this, if the baby doesn't do that, this, and that'll happen. And I really felt like my back was against the wall. And I stood up and I said, if someone tries to give my baby a bath this night, I am going to jail. I am going to jail. I was not playing. And when I'm saying playing, it's another word I want to use, but I'm trying to keep the podcast clean. But I'm not BSing, okay? I had it. So I think by the time my son arrived, I was ready. I was ready to do whatever I needed to do for mine. But my mother-in-law's perspective was completely different. She wasn't here when my daughter was born. And she asked what I wanted. And that's how she approached it. And everything was copacetic. And I think
that's important.
Yes. It's a completely different approach. But the other way, it was going to go down.
So you had no idea of what was... See, I like to ask questions. So prior to giving birth, I have other friends who have kids. Like I have a friend, she's Ghanaian, but she's married to a Nigerian guy. So I kind of knew some of the things to expect and some of the things to look out for. But I always like to know, like, okay, what will this person be expecting from me and what will they be expecting me to allow take place? I like to know that. I'm a planner and a prepper, so I kind of like to have an idea. So I kind of knew some of the things. Like I knew we had to have a naming ceremony and all that stuff. And then I had started watching these videos of them pulling the legs and all that. And I'm like, yeah, no, I can't. Like, I can't allow that to happen. Mm-mm. No.
I didn't know. I knew about like the naming and all of that, and that was cool. I did not know anything about the bath. I didn't even bother to ask because we've talked about this before on this podcast that African American women, we are sometimes in positions where we're single mothers or we're the matriarchs, head of the household, decision makers, big baller shot caller, bringing home the bacon. And I have been raised in a female dominated family. And I've been taught that what mama says goes. Even when there is a husband or a father figure in the household, when it comes to the children, you always defer to the mother. So I didn't bother to even ask what the traditions were because I'm thinking mother's baby, father's maybe. I need to say that again. Mother's baby, father's maybe. That, you know, your mother, the mother of the child is undeniable. The father of the child could be questionable, even though that's not the case with my husband and I. But that's just one of the problems and one of the issues I feel like we have to address in the African American community about like the place that men are in right now and the whole hierarchy or whether or not there should be one and male and female roles and all of that. Like there's a lot going on with that statement. But I just assumed that what I wanted for my child would be followed and that I wouldn't be put in a predicament where I'm having to defend what I want for my child. Like I'm the one that laid up in the hospital trying to get the strength to push. Like, how am I now trying to defend what I want to do with this child? Who was there pushing, you know, for 18 hours or however long I was in labor?
Right.
So I didn't even bother to do any of that sort of research. But the second time around, I was ready to go. You see, my whole tone changes when I talk about my children. And I found an African proverb online. It said, it takes a breast for a child to know its mother. And it takes a mother for a child to know its father. What do you guys take away from that?
Well, I I mean, my first thought on that is your child is bonded. As a mom, your child, as soon as they come out, usually there's an instant bond there. I mean, you carried this child for 9, 10 months. So that's an easy bond. The part about it takes what did it say? It takes the mother to make sure the child knows his father. What did it say?
Basically, it takes a mother for a child to know its father.
I don't. I agree and don't agree with that part. Because I feel like it's not a mother's responsibility to make sure a man is a father to his child. I do think, yes, a mother should encourage the child to bond with the father, even if the father is not in the home. But I feel like as a man, if you decide to father a child, then you need to be responsible, and not just in a financial way. You need to be there for your child emotionally. You need to make sure that there's a connection there. I don't think that all responsibility falls on the woman to make sure she has a relationship with her kid and you have a relationship with her kid. So I kind of have mixed feelings about the latter part of that proverb.
Tracy, you got any
Well,
perspective?
it just speaks volume to what you said. It's pretty much just saying what you said. Fought mother's
Yeah.
baby, daddy's maybe. So, like to me, if if I had a child, I'm not gonna say Foley, come spend time with your kid. If Foley doesn't know when he walks in and mama's been home all day with that baby, that it's time for him to spend time with that baby and form that relationship,
Well, okay, so but
Foley
wait,
needs to
I
let go of baby
do.
and mama.
Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on,
So,
No, Tracy, you taking it to
so,
hold
another
on.
level.
Pause. Hold on.
so
So
I'm
I
just
do
saying,
feel like sometimes with men, it doesn't. Not all women, but usually it doesn't click right away. I mean, sometimes you have to
click
say,
right
"Hey,
away.
why don't you go do this?" Especially if they're not used to being around kids a lot. But I don't think it should have to be a situation where you're always on them to do it. But I think sometimes men have to be prompted to do what they need to do. Sometimes. So I wouldn't say just like, oh, if Foley came in the house and he didn't know. Sometimes they need to be reminded. I mean, don't kick him out just yet. Like, don't do him like that.
For me, I don't have time
Tracy
for all
is
that
on one.
reminding.
But it's a new
Because
experience. Like, I mean, for my husband, he had never really been around kids a lot. So it was a complete adjustment for him. And I think it's a little bit harder. I think even when men get married, their mind has a little bit of a harder time shifting and realizing, okay, it's not just about me anymore. Whereas women, I think we kind of like dive in head first and we're like, okay, this is the us thing. I'm taking care of me. I'm taking care of him. You have a baby. You're taking care of the baby. I feel like men have a harder time adjusting to that. And sometimes they do need to be reminded. Sometimes you do have to like push their backs up against the wall and be like, okay, Foley, you can't do this. You're going to have to get out. Okay, Toy, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think the responsibility should fully fall on a woman ever.
the other thing I noticed, like in the Nigerian culture with the men, once their wife give birth, they expect their mom to come in and take on that part of their responsibility. Like, so it's like the blame isn't on them when something isn't done. Well, mommy is here to help you. Well, mommy is here for this. Mommy is here for that. No, when are you going to be here for something?
I think my husband may have said that like one time when his mom was there, and I was like, okay, but you should be doing this. He's like, oh, there are people here to help, or like your mom's here, or like he says, oh, people are here to help, and I said, did I sleep with these people? I didn't have sex
Right.
with your mama. I didn't have sex with my mama or any of those other people. I had sex with you to create this child. So it doesn't matter if they're here. You're the dad. Like, step up.
This
But
is
I'm
a
usually quick to
very
like call it out.
touchy subject, man. It's still touchy in our household because my mother-in-law is here. She's been here, she comes and goes. And when she's here, my husband defers to her a lot for assistance with childcare. Like if I need to go somewhere and mommy is not around, like maybe she went to Brooklyn to go to a party or something like that, or someone's getting married, my husband feels absolutely helpless. Like if I go to Walmart, it's like, oh, you want to go to Walmart again? Or how long are you going to be? Or he's calling me while I'm in the car, like he's going to die if I leave him at home with 2 kids.
And my thing is, I feel like a man is not going to be a mom, but I feel like I have said to my husband, I need to be comfortable knowing that if anything ever happened to me or something, or if I need you to step up, you can do it without me being there to like guide you. I need that comfort knowing that, okay, there's another parent to rely on. What if I'm sick? Like, I mean, when Sam was 6 months old, I had the flu and pneumonia. So I was kind of down. I need you to be able to step up without me being there to hold your hand.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important. Because at the end of the day, grandparents, that's not their kids. So yeah, they may come to hell, but they can go home whenever they feel like it.
But I feel that Nigerian grandparents have, especially the grandmothers, have a completely different perspective. My grandmother would tell you quick, I'm done raising kids. My kids are grown. You know, I'm not taking care of another generation of children, even though she do it anyway. She loves to say that to try to get you to not lean on her so much and don't try to use her because she's done raising kids. But
Right.
Nigerian grandmothers, at least the ones that I've been in contact with, have said they feel like it's their duty. They haven't used those exact words, but they feel like it's an honor. It's something that they've always wanted, that their children would bear fruit and they would live to see it. And there was one time when my mother-in-law was thinking that instead of going back to Nigeria, she would just stay a little bit longer because she felt obligated. Like, how can I leave now and you just gave birth to, my first grandson? Like, there's a certain amount of honor and responsibility I see that some Nigerian women have when their children have children.
Oh,
go ahead, Teresa.
My perspective on that is this: when they had their kids, someone was there to take care of them. So now when their kids have their kids, it's their chance to actually raise a child.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I didn't think about that till just now listening to you guys talk and like reflecting back on it. So that's what I'm getting from it, because when they had their child, they had nannies, they had their mom there, and their mom probably didn't let them do anything. So now that their kids having kids, now they're getting that chance to actually raise a baby.
I see it 2 different ways. I kind of see what you're saying, Tracy, and I think in some people's situations, I do think that is definitely the case. But I also see it as their grandparents, and they're excited because, like, everything you just described and said, my mom feels the same way. She feels like, she just said to me, "Oh, I wish I was there so I can help more with Sam." No, she's not going to take my responsibilities and become his mom, but she feels like, I wish I was there to have my grandchild more, to take some of the weight off your shoulders, stuff like that. So I know my mom still works, so she's not retired yet. She's not able to do that, but she has said to me, like, I wish I was in the position where I could basically be there and help take care of my grandkids. So I think it just kind of depends on the person too, because the way in my family, it's always been like, I spent every single weekend at my grandparents' house. Like from being a little baby to even in high school, even in college, when I would come home on the weekends, I was at my grandparents' house. So I think it also kind of just depends on the family dynamics, I guess.
Yeah, I grew up with my grandparents too.
And the same here. My grandmother and grandfather were very much a part of my upbringing. So I couldn't imagine what my life would be like if they weren't so a part of it. Like that, they were part of my routine, especially when I was going to school. And I would have been a latchkey kid if it were not for my grandmother. So to that extent, she was definitely there in a certain role for an extensive period of time. And I don't know, I feel like it's a little different with Nigerian families because I feel like they almost take it to another level. in a
Could
way that
agree.
African Americans don't. I don't
I
know.
think with them, it's
I don't
kind
know.
of, I think it also goes back to the position of authority. I think that's why it kind of goes to a different level, because I feel like if your mom or Teresa, your mom, move in your house, well, they move in or they come and help you take care of your kid, they're helping out, they're taking off some of the load off your back, but at the same time, I know my mom still respects me as Sam's mom. So she may guide me, she may do stuff for me, but I know she doesn't necessarily feel like, okay, I'm your mom, so I tell you how to be Sam's mom. I feel like sometimes maybe with Nigerian grandmothers, they kind of feel like, okay, I'm the elder, what I say goes. And it kind of, yeah, you're the mom, but what I say goes, which I don't think is necessarily fair.
Right. They're like, which children have you raised?
Yeah.
This is your first child. Which child have you raised? Stuff like that kind of irks me, because I feel like as women, as mothers, there's a certain amount of it is
Right.
instinctual that we know what's best for our children, you know. So I don't know. This is, like I said, this is a touchy subject, and I've been waiting to hear
I
Atlantis' perspective, because I knew it was going to
I
be
think
something.
so my mother-in-law had her thoughts and what I should do, and ultimately I did what I felt was best. Now, I'm not saying that one should never listen to advice, but I feel like as a grandmother, when you give advice, even my own mom, she's told me things and I'm like, no, I don't agree with that. I'm not going to do that. And she wasn't excited about it. She was unhappy. But at the end of the day, you have to respect that it's my decision. But I feel like it's a very fine line, because on the flip side, you don't want to be the mom who's not taking advice from anybody. Because at the end of the day, it is true. You've never done this before. And like my mother-in-law has 3 kids, my mom has 3 kids. So there are things that they know that I have no clue about. But I feel like there are things that I know that they may not realize, because it's also a different generation. Like certain things my mom was saying to me, like, I can't remember what she wanted me to do. I was like, Mom, people don't do that anymore. No, not going to do that. And she's like,
right.
I have raised 3 children and all of y'all came out fine. And that is very true, but times are different. So it's a very, like you said, it's a touchy topic and you don't really know, but I feel like respect needs to be given on both sides for it to work. I feel like you need to respect me as this child's mom, and I respect you as the grandmother, but you have to have enough respect and understanding to know that what you say is not law, especially in my house.
Yeah, I feel you on.
I'm not trying to throw shade. I'm just saying.
No, but then I feel you. I feel like I'm there with you. I was just having a conversation last night with my mother-in-law about baby powder. I said, you know, people don't use baby powder anymore because it's linked to cancer. And she gave me this look like, which powder? I said, you know, Mommy, you know which powder I'm talking about. You can't use baby powder. People will look at you funny if you use baby powder these days. Like, it's just something like that. She said, I used baby powder my whole life.
Yeah, I think me and my mother-in-law had that conversation, or she wanted me to put Vaseline in Sam's hair or something. Yeah, that's what it was. She kept asking me if what I was gonna put oil in his hair, and I'm like, no, not gonna put any oil. The only time I did, he had a little bit of cradle cap, and I would use coconut oil for that. But I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And I think some of that is not even just a cultural thing. I think that's a generational thing.
Yeah, I definitely think it's generational.
Like, I mean, yeah.
Anyway,
but it's an interesting dynamic to deal with. But yeah, it's good.
Wow, so you've given us a lot to think about. You've given a lot to our listeners to think about. I knew this conversation was going to be something else, and I know Tracy really knows. She may know a lot more, and she's not saying anything. But I just,
Tracy, where are you? Why aren't you saying anything? You've been in the game longer than anyone on this phone.
Exactly.
But you see me, I'm like, this is y'all's podcast today because I don't have any kids of my own right now. but the kids
No,
that I
but you
have
got a
helped,
husband.
I have a husband, and the kids that I have helped shape and mold when they came into my lives and stuff like that. But I did what I wanted to do. I didn't care what the parents said. Like I like no, not saying it like that, but when they're with me, they're being raised like a kid in Louisiana would have been raised.
Mm-hmm.
I did what
Yeah.
I was taught for them. And I used to babysit for my friend. Like they were in the process of adopting a kid, and her husband's auntie here gave the baby the palm oil bath and everything like that. And for me, she was like so excited, but she also lost her identity in that process when she married this man. She stopped being who she was to be who he wanted her to be, which was a Nigerian woman, a submissive Nigerian woman. And for the amount of time that I've known her, like she was always true to herself, and she was a Muslim woman. And then she became the submissive Christian Nigerian woman.
Wow.
So it's like, I don't know how to say this nicely. I'm gonna just leave it like that. But yeah, she allowed them to give the baby like the traditional bath and all this other stuff. And for me, I'm like, well, he's not a newborn, first of all, so there's no dead skin to be rubbing off.
Oh, how old was he?
He was a couple of months old, and I'm like, and he's and I think he was like biracial, white and something else. And I'm like, he's not a newborn, and he's not of Nigerian descent, kind of.
Oh wait, so
Oh,
she had a kid, and then the kid wasn't for the
no,
Nigerian man.
they were in the process of
Oh,
adopting.
they were
the kid.
adopting the kid. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and his big auntie here decided to give the traditional Nigerian bath, and that baby didn't like that. That baby cried. They turned that baby upside down, and when she was telling me, like, my heart dropped. I'm like, they did what? She was like, oh yeah, they turned him upside down, they slapped him on the butt, they did this, they pulled his legs. I'm like, there's no way in hell I'll let that happen when I have kids.
I don't think I could stand there and watch it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I feel like there are a lot of things. Like, I'm excited for Sam to learn about his Nigerian heritage and all that, but some things, like, no. I feel like you could possibly harm a child in that way and not even realize it. Like, kids are really fragile at that age. If we don't have to do certain things, like, let's not do that. Let's not.
Yeah.
Like, we stretch the babies. Like, we'll like have the babies grip our hands and pull them up, and we'll stretch their legs and things like that. But throwing them up and flipping them upside down,
Exactly, because I remember someone saying to me during the time of my daughter's birth was that, oh, if you don't do this, the child won't be flexible. I said, you know, the U.S. is always winning in gymnastics. Like, we've never lacked in that. So, come on now.
I did hear that it's to increase the flexibility, and I'm like, but babies are naturally flexible. Their bones are still soft. Like, they'll be okay. It'll be fine. But Tracy, how do so you have two, what do you consider your children? Are they Nigerian American, African American, Nigerian? What are they?
My children are Nigerian American.
Okay, and do you raise them like they're Nigerian? Whatever that means to people.
I think I do a little bit of both. I'm very adamant about my children knowing their Nigerian background and their African American background, and I think that's why a lot of people were saying what they were saying on the YouTube channel, because I believe that there's a wealth of culture that exists here in America that is special to African American population. And my children and their story goes around in a circle. Yes, we originated from the continent, but guess what? There's a part of you that was brought up and raised and cultivated with a different type of culture in a foreign land. And there's something special about that, and I will not take that away from them.
Right.
And even down to the naming, with our children, we were in conflict, not with each other, but just how much, well, like, what name did we want to come first? Did we want an English name or a Yoruba name? And like, what type of name? Could it be really, really ethnic, or should it be like straight English? Like, these are things that we just muddled over for a very long time, even to the point, Tracy will remember this, I was not going to leave the hospital with my son not having a name. Like, I told my husband, I said, we're going to leave here with a nameless child, because I'm not going to give my son a name that doesn't make sense to me. I don't want him to go out into the world and be, treated in a certain type of way. I'm not saying that the name can't be Yoruba. I'm not saying the name has to be English. I'm just saying, let's make it make sense. Let's give him a nice, strong name where, that just makes sense.
So do your children have
it was hard.
Full Yoruba names?
They have full Yoruba names.
Wow.
And my daughter was named, not full Yoruba first names.
Oh, okay.
So my father-in-law suggested names for my daughter. And when I first heard the name Iwalewa, and when I knew the meaning, I loved it from the very beginning. It was very different. And she's, she's making noises now because she heard her name. But I absolutely loved it from the first time I heard it. And I just knew that it was something I liked because it was very different. And at the same time, it invites a conversation.
Right.
And so we went with Iwalewa, and her middle name is Lauren. And for a long time, we didn't know if Lauren was going to be the first name or her middle name. Mm-hmm. And I think our doctor was our tiebreaker. Lakeland actually wanted the English name first. I wanted Iwalewa because I thought it was beautiful. And our doctor was like, I think you should go with Iwalewa because it's a gorgeous name. And we all agree that if a person is going to discriminate based on your name, they're going to discriminate in any way anyway. It could be for your hair or your color or your complexion, whatever it is. If a person is determined to be a bigot, they're going to be that person if your name is Lauren or Iwalewa. So we went with Iwalewa.
I agree and disagree. My goal was for my child and my future children or child, because there probably will just be one more, to have a first name that's easy to pronounce, easy to spell. I mean, has some meaning. Sam's name, his name is Samuel. Of course, it's from the Bible. But I felt like I wanted my child to not have a Yoruba first name, because I feel like you get first of all, your last name is there, and your middle name is also, like, he has two Yoruba names. So can I have something? I'm giving birth, I'm carrying the child. Can I have something in terms of the name?
Well, my husband wanted the English name. I'm the one that I just heard Iwalewa, and I just had to have that name. It was so unique, and I'm not afraid of having a difficult name. If anything,
see, I always think about that, because I guess my middle name, which I will not announce to the world, is a difficult name, and I've always felt like, dang, why did my parents give me this name? Now I've embraced it now more as an adult, but I'm still not super in love with it. So I'm a person that pays attention to names, like when I see it right away. So I didn't want anything difficult. I felt like, how is it going to look on paper? And I mean, you're right. I feel like people will, if you're going to discriminate based on a name, chances are you're going to discriminate in another form down the line. But I guess I've always just kind of thought about the initial, meeting, I guess.
So what is your middle name?
Tracy, I'm not telling you my middle name. At least not right now. I will not. And I probably won't tell you anyway, because you will use it against me like your brother over here. Yeah. But I mean, that's true. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But hey. Well, that's good. Sam has his first name is Samuel and his middle name is Adewale.
Oh, I like that name. My
I
son
picked
is
it.
Tunde, Ayo Tunde.
Oh, that's cute. I like Ayo.
We call him Ayo. Yeah, we call him Ayo, and he's named in memory of my brother-in-law who passed away last summer.
Oh,
We learned we were having a boy around the time that he passed away, so his name means that joy has returned.
oh, that's
So
very
I
fitting.
just thought that it was very fitting, and they actually favor because my son looks like my husband, and he and his brothers, to me, they all look alike. So I just feel like this is another way of God saying that, Ahmed will live on.
Right.
Another son is in the family. Like, I don't
I mean,
know.
that's
It's
sweet. I think
touchy.
that's a good name and a good reason. But I do. How do you like being a
Mhm.
Nigerian wife?
Who are you? Are you talking to Tracy or me?
I'm talking
Tracy.
to Tracy. I know how
Oh,
Tracy feels.
I I have ups and downs with it. I love learning the difference in cultures, but I do feel
Right.
like some of the ideals are archaic and closed-minded.
Hmm.
If we are in a marriage with people who don't share the same background with us, it says something about us that we're at least open to considering people who are vastly different from us. But I, in
True.
turn, believe that Nigerians expect people to conform to them, that their culture is supreme. Their way is the only way, and any other way is subpar. And so I feel like I spend a lot of time in defense of African American culture, women, and our perspectives. And I feel like there's so many ways to live a wonderful life. And if it just so
Right.
happens to be non Afrocentric or non Nigerian culturally, that is not subpar. And I feel like this podcast, the YouTube, and so many other things that we do in the community is an example to people who are Nigerian to say, hey, you do have brothers and sisters who are in the diaspora, born in a foreign land, and their culture is just as sweet. Their ideals and customs are just as valid. And I feel like every day that we walk and thrive and live the life as a wife, we're showing what our life could actually be like, what the standard should be. That no matter where you are in the world, we're all brothers and sisters, we're all African, and we're all valid. Okay, guys, so clearly this episode was really explosive. I've had to break it up for you all. If you are so enmeshed in this episode, you need to come back to hear part 2. It's actually going to be an encore that we will post on Friday for your listening pleasure. Until next time, take care.